Good evening to everybody. Just wanted to know that my PPT is visible to all of you. If yes, kindly drop a message so that I can start further.
Good evening, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is it visible? Should I start it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just to give you a quick introduction. So my name is Dr. Monica Gaur. I'm a radiologist working in Lal Path Lab as a HOD of the Department of Radiology. So today we'll be having a little bit of talk about the uterus and totally about the uterus. I think we do not have the time since it's a demo class. So uterus. What to look for in uterus? What exactly do we look in the uterus when we talk about the ultrasound of uterus? So first of all, it is layers of the uterus. Second, the size of the uterus, and third is the various positions of the uterus, all the variations which are present in the uterus, let it be retroverted, let it be anteverted. There are thousands of them. So yes, these are the things which we look in the uterus when we start with the ultrasound. We can actually scan the uterus in two ways. First of all, it is transabdominally, what we want to scan. The other option is transvaginally. Transabdominally is the one which we do very frequently rather than going to the transvaginal scan. Transvaginal has its own limitations when we talk about this scanning, since the lady should be physically active. I won't say merit, I would rather say physically active. And that's the only option when we go for transvaginal scan. When we talk about the transabdominal scan, we start from the very first day. When we start scanning, when we do the whole abdominal scanning, we do see uterus in all of the female patients. Now, transabdominal sonography. I'm assuming that you all know about the sonography probe. I'm assuming that you all know about the sonographic image. How does it look like? Transabdominal sonography. So what exactly, when we say transabdominal sonography, is what do we talk about? So this is a probe, transabdominal probe. Sound waves, that's the way they penetrate inside the abdomen. Then we have vagina over here, and above the vagina we have cervix, and then we have the whole body of uterus. Ovaries are on each side of the uterus. So now when we say that we have to go for transabdominal sonography of uterus, then we need to have this urinary bladder to be filled with the urine fully, because if it is half filled or it is unfilled, we won't be able to see the uterus. Until or unless we do not have the women who have already gave the birth to 2 or 3 uh, uh, kids. After that, the uterus becomes bulky, and even with the empty bladder, you will be able to see the uterus. I'm talking about transabdominal scan. When we put the probe on the body of the patient, we just put above the urinary bladder in the pelvic area, and we try to scan the uterus. Normal uterus in transverse view. Again, I'm assuming that you all know about the views of the ultrasound. We have two basic views, longitudinal view and the transverse view. Yes, hello? Any questions? Okay, so no questions. So when we talk about the normal uterus, we take two views. First is transverse or longitudinal. Let me tell you one more thing, that whenever we scan ultrasound patients, we always take two views of each and every organ without exception. Just forget about the thing that we do see pancreas only in transverse view. No, we have to take the longitudinal view of the pancreas as well. So when we talk about the ultrasonography of any organ which is present in the abdomen, we have to take two views. We start with the transverse view. First of all, we put the probe transversely on above the pelvis of the patient. What we see? We see full urinary bladder. Just below the posterior to the bladder. Again, this is anterior, posterior, right and left in transverse view. In transverse view. When it becomes longitudinal view, we see urinary bladder, uterus, anterior and posterior. These two sides of our window change their position when we change the position of the probe. So when we are talking about the transverse section, that means we are putting the probe transversely. So this side becomes anterior, posterior, right and left. Anterior, posterior, right, left. In longitudinal view, anterior, posterior remains the same. Superior, inferior. Superior, inferior. Anterior, posterior, right, left in transverse view. Anterior, posterior, superior, inferior in longitudinal view. So we put the probe like this. We see the uterus in view. We see both the ovaries in either side of the uterus. This is a perfect condition. This is a perfect patient when we are able to see both the ovaries on either side of the uterus. In 80% of the cases, this will not happen. We have to have the movement of the probe to see the ovaries. Otherwise, we won't be able to see we won't be able to see such a good picture of ovaries on either side of the uterus. This is very rare kind of condition. Either which ways. So when we put probe transversely, we see urinary bladder, we see uterus, right ovary, left ovary. In center of the uterus, we see hyperechogenic area, which is endometrium. Again, look at the change in the probe position. This is longitude. Sorry. This is longitudinal view. See this slide. Look at the transverse positioning of the probe. Now look at the longitudinal positioning of the probe. Please remember, whenever you put the probe transversely on the abdomen, always move clockwise to get the longitudinal position and not vice versa. Do not move anti-clockwise to get the longitudinal view of the uterus. Never ever. Just make a rule out of it that whenever you put the probe transversely, move it clockwise to get the whatever organ you are scanning in longitudinal view. So this is longitudinal view. Longitudinal means anterior, posterior, superior, inferior. I hope that's clear. Anterior, posterior, right and left. Now anterior, posterior, superior, inferior, and that is the reason we are not able to see the ovaries in longitudinal section until or unless we do not make the positioning. We do not tilt our hand right, we do not tilt our hand to the left. So this is how the longitudinal view of uterus is achieved. So this side is the superior side means the fundus of the uterus. Here till here, look at this drip. Look at this drip in the body of the uterus. From this side till this side is the cervical area. And when we take the size of the uterus, we do include the cervix. So this is the whole body of the uterus in longitudinal view. Again, there are some pointers whenever we start the scanning. In transvaginal scan, we do need full urinary bladder. Now, why do we need the full urinary bladder? So that the bladder itself can displace the intestinal loop which are there lying nearby in the pelvis. So, in whatever the case is, do not scan the patient until or unless the bowel, the bladder, the urinary bladder is full. Now, if the bladder will be empty, what we will be able to visualize, we'll be able to see the bowel gas. Bowel gas, and as we know, air is a bad conductor of the ultrasonic waves. Air does not allow the ultrasound waves to penetrate deeper. It just cut it off at the level wherever it is present. Again, where do we see the cons of TAS in comparison with the TVS? That happens when we have a big fibroid in the uterus, which we are not able to visualize in TVS. In TVS, when we will put the probe inside, we will be able to see that yes, there is a mass. Now, if you want to give the volume of the mass or take the exact measurement of the mass, we again will have to go to the transabdominal scan. The reason behind that the field of view in transvaginal scan is limited, and the field of view in case of transabdominal scan is far more bigger in comparison with the transvaginal scan. Secondly, we have a rule which says that higher is the frequency of the ultrasound wave, better is the image resolution, but lesser is the depth of tissue penetration. So whatever the probes are there in ultrasound which are of high frequency, they cannot penetrate deeper. They cannot penetrate deeper. If you talk about the transvaginal probe, yes, it has a good field of lesser field of view, but then image resolution is very good. Image resolution is very good. Then we have linear probe, which again is which does have a very good resolution, but then again it does not go deeper. It confines itself to the superficial organs. That is the reason when we scan anterior abdominal wall, we use linear probe. When we scan breast, we use linear probe. When we scan thyroid gland, we use linear probe. So just remember this rule that more the frequency of the probe, the resolution of the image will be far more better, but the tissue penetration of that probe will be very much lesser. I hope so, since it's not a class, but again you'll be able to answer it. I think which view it is. Answer it to yourself. This is longitudinal view. Fundus till here, and this is vagina. What is the line? What is this line? This white line in the vagina, and why the white line is present? Just work it out for yourself. Why there is a white line present in vagina, which is seen, since it's not an endometrium. This is not the lining for sure. This is the cavity of the vagina. Why it is white in color? That is a question. Whenever you see an organ in ultrasound, it looks hyperechoic, it looks anechoic, it looks hypoechoic. You have to got the reason to answer it, that why it is hypo, why it is hyper, and why it is anechoic, the reason behind it. So this is longitudinal view. Coming to the transvaginal sonography. When we talk about the transvaginal sonography, that means we use probe which can go through the vagina, and the body of the uterus, the body is in touch with that transvaginal probe. It is in touch with the transvaginal probe. Please remember that we do not go inside the cervix. Transvaginal probe does not mean that we are opening the cervix, not at all. Maybe in the gynec cases you might not see this question coming up, but yes, in OBS cases there are so many gynecs who get confused with it, that do not go for transvaginal scan. It might lead to opening of the internal os. No, this will not happen because we are not penetrating inside the cervix. It is fully safe till the end of the pregnancy, and in gynec condition, of course, it is more informative but the case is that the lady should be physically active. So transvaginal sonography, transvaginal ultrasound, this is the probe which we use. This is the vagina from where it is penetrating inside, and this is how it is giving the ultrasonic waves, the sound waves. Look at the field of view, very less, very less. And again, we won't be able to see the ovary in one view, because as soon as we put the probe inside, we do see the longitudinal view, and this is what we require actually when we go for transvaginal scan. There is no point of seeing transverse view in transvaginal scanning until or unless we are not doing 3D 4D scan. Now 3D 4D scan, we need to have that transvaginal view, and if we want to see the transvaginal view, we should go for transabdominal scan with full bladder. Ovaries on both the sides, but again you have to make the movements, tilting from both the sides, rotating. So this is what is required when we go for transvaginal scan. But the view of uterus and both the ovaries is very confirmatory kind of, so that is the reason we prefer doing transvaginal scan. Transvaginal ultrasound may be done for the following problems. Now look at the problems where we do need to have that transvaginal study. Abnormal findings on physical examination such as cysts, fibroid tumors or other growth. Now transvaginal sonography is far more informative if we compare it with the transabdominal scanning. Abnormal vaginal bleeding and menstrual problems, certain types of infertility, ectopic pregnancy, pelvic pain. Now these are the cases where we can go for transabdominal scanning as well. But again, transvaginal sonography has its own cons in comparison with the transabdominal scanning. It is done with a probe which is placed close to the target organ. There is no need. Why TVS is preferred? There are so many cases who go for transabdominal scanning of uterus, but after 30 minutes they'll come to your cabin and will say, okay, that's fine, I'm physically active, I'm married, I want to go for TVS, because they do not wait for a longer period of time to fill the bladder. Not each and every patient will come with the full bladder to your clinic. So yes, this is something which goes in favor of the patient, because there is no need of filling the bladder, no need of drinking lots and lots of water, and no need of waiting for hours. It also avoids the difficulties, since when we go for transabdominal scanning, we are going through the different layers of the abdomen. We have abdominal layer, then we have intestine, then we have muscular layer, and we have fatty layer as well. Now if the thickness of the fatty layer will be this much, then the visibility of the organ posterior to it will be very, very poor. So yes, obesity is the case when we should prefer doing transvaginal scan if the lady is physically active. I'm repeating the same sentence 100 times because this will something which will occur in your clinic, in your daily practice, when you will ask for TVS scan and patient will blast on you that I'm not married. How can you ask me the same question? TVS operates at high frequency. Then since TVS is a high frequency probe, its field of view is very, very less, but the image quality what we get is very, very appreciable. That is the reason detailed evaluation of the pelvic organs is possible with the TVS. The only drawbacks of TVS are mainly due to narrow vagina in verges. That is the reason I asked you to ask the patient if they're physically active or not. Post-menopausal women or post-radiation vaginal stenosis. Now there are so many cases of vaginal stenosis where you won't be able to put the vaginal probe. This is the case when we avoid doing TVS. Normal view of TVS. This is the view what we want to see in transvaginal scanning. So again, when I say transvaginal scanning, everything goes vice versa. If we see the full length of endometrium, that means we are in which view? Longitudinal or transverse? Answer it for yourself. This is nothing but the longitudinal view. So anterior, posterior, and this is superior and inferior. So this got to be the fundus of the uterus. This is fundus of the uterus. This is whole thickness. This is whole thickness of the endometrium, and then cervix. Vagina is not much appreciable in transvaginal scanning. So better to do, if there is something which is related to find out in vaginal opening, then yes, we should prefer doing transabdominal scan rather than going for transvaginal scan. This is longitudinal view, normal uterus in longitudinal view in transvaginal scan. This is longitudinal view and this is transverse view, both in TVS. See, get used to the image, get your eyes used to the image. You do not have to read anywhere that this is ultrasound of the uterus, TVS or TS. We do specify. We do, when we write our report, we always specify that which type of scan we did in the patient. But then again, as a doctor, as a treating doctor or the other scanning doctor, you got to see the anterior part of your screen or the image which is provided with the report to yourself only judge that is it a transabdominal scan or a transvaginal scan, because we ultrasound reporting is something which is done manually, and then whatever thing is done manually, that has the scope of mistakes. So do not stick to it that transvaginal is written, but the patient has come with the report of transabdominal. Let it go. That these mistakes might happen. This mistake might happen with you as well. So that is okay. Get your eyes used to the image which is presented with the patient's case. This is longitudinal view. Since we see the whole length of the uterus, this is transverse view. Anterior, posterior, superior, inferior, anterior, posterior, right and left. This hyperechoic area at the center of the uterus is endometrium. Again reminding you for the question, why the line in the center of the vagina is hyperechoic. Layers of the uterus. Now, how many layers are there? There are three basic layers: mucosa, myometrium and perimetrium. Mucosa is nothing but the innermost lining, which is endometrium. Again, endometrium has its own lining. It also varies in thickness depending upon the stage of menstrual cycle. Let me give a quick review about the thickness of the endometrium. 10 mm of endometrium is normal on 12th day of cycle, but pathological on 5th day of cycle. Now, this is the importance of knowing the stages of menstrual cycle. 5 mm of endometrium is normal for 5th to 7th day of cycle, but pathological on 22nd on 23rd day of cycle. This is the importance of knowing the stage of menstrual cycle and the thickness of endometrium, and whole of the infertility study is dependent upon the endometrial thickness. It is very, very important in the cases of the infertility. Which is a thick, smooth muscle layer which is in the continuation with the fallopian tubes of the and the vagina. Myometrium is the whole mass. This is the whole mass is myometrium. This is endometrium, the innermost layer. Serosa is perimetrium. It is the peritoneal covering of the uterus, not visible in ultrasound. The peritoneal covering of the uterus is not visible in ultrasound. It only looks a thin line, but then again very difficult to differentiate from myometrium, so we do not see generally for the perimetrium in ultrasound. Anterior, posterior should be right or superior? Answer for yourself. We see the whole length of uterus, that means this is longitudinal scan. So this has to be superior and this has to be inferior side. Endometrium, myometrium, perimetrium. Perimetrium is the outermost layer of the uterus. Uterine size, very, very important. We do ignore it in our daily practice. Not every patient, when we do a scan for uterus, we take the size of the uterus. But again, once you will start scanning and you have already scanned somewhere around 500, 600 patients, you know the normal size of the uterus by eyeballing itself. So if the age in years, if I count 2 to 8, the length should be 33, 7 to 5 in anterior posterior. So if I am talking about anterior posterior, that means transverse view. And this is a longitudinal view. During menarche, 43, 13. Nulliparous, 80, 30. Multiparous, 90, 40. Postmenopausal varies based on parity, This figure, this menarche to multiparous, just keep the figure of 75 to 80 in your mind. This is the normal figure or the length of the uterus which you will encounter in your daily practice from menarche till multiparous. This is how we take the length of the uterus. AP, or you can take AP in the transverse, because AP remains the same in longitudinal and in transverse view both. This gives the superior inferior, the length of the uterus, and this gives the width of the uterus. Length of the uterus, AP measurement, transverse measurement. This is how we take the measurement. Divide your screen into two views, longitudinal, transverse, and show the measurement. 1, 2, 3. This is length of the uterus, this is the width of the uterus, and this is the AP view, depth of the uterus. Now a quick view about the endometrium. Endometrium varies in thickness and appearance both. Yes, endometrium is nothing but filled with the glands. So of course the thickness and the echogenicity of the endometrium will keep on varying in different days of the cycle, menstrual cycle. So in menstrual phase, endometrium is thinnest, which is 1st to 5th day of cycle. First day is when the period starts. It is end, it is echogenic. Proliferative phase, when endometrium is thin, echogenic line which gradually increases in thickness, which starts from 5th or 6th day of cycle till 11th or 12th day of cycle. Peri-ovulatory phase, when endometrium is triple layered. I'll show you how the triple layered looks like and measures from 6 to 10. Secretory phase, endometrium is homogeneously thickened and echogenic, and it goes till the start of the next menstrual cycle. It's a big topic to cover with. The outer bright layer is non-functional zone, the inner dark layer is functional, the innermost white line represents cavity. Let me just skip this part and show you. Appreciate the 3 lines of endometrium. 1, thick line, echogenic. 2, hypoechoic line. 3rd is the most echogenic line. Now 1, 2, 3. This is outermost. This is the middle part, and this is echogenic part, which is the cavity. This represents the cavity. This represents the cavity. So whenever there is an implantation will occur on this part of the cavity. Going back, outer bright layer is non-functional, inner dark layer is functional, innermost represents cavity. This part is non-functional, this white layer, this layer. This is the outermost white layer, it's non-functional. The most functional part is this layer, which is slightly hypoechoic. When we say hypoechoic, when we say hyperechoic, that means we got to compare it with something. We cannot say that the line is hyperechoic. Hyperechoic to what? Hyperechoic to this part. Now look at this part, look at this part. This is echogenic, this is more echogenic than this. That is the reason we are calling it as hyperechoic. Hyperechoic, hypoechoic, and most echogenic part. This is non-functional, functional, and this is the cavity. Triple layered endometrium. Endometrium just after the menstruation, since we have shed off all the endometrial lining and we are left only with the cavity, that is the reason the endometrium appears to be thinnest after the menstruation. This is triple layered endometrium. This is found in the peri-ovulatory phase, when there are the chances of ovulation. That is the secretory phase. The whole of the endometrium is of one echogenicity. There is no differentiation of hyperechogenic, hypoechogenic, or the most echogenic. No. So when we see such kind of echogenic endometrium, again nothing but the secretory phase. This kind of endometrium, and we do not take the size of the endometrium, that means we are doing a big mistake, because this kind of endometrium may be normal for a 34-year lady in secretory phase, but abnormal for a perimenopausal, not menopausal, perimenopausal. So that is the importance of knowing the endometrial part, its thickness, its appearance. How do we take the measurement of the endometrium? Outer to outer. Outer to the hyperechoic area till the outer of the hyperechoic area. We do include this non-functional zone, remember, we do include it. So always take the transitional part from the myometrium to the endometrium, this part outer area and the outer of the other side. What is this? This is uterus. This whole is the uterus. Longitudinal scan. What is this? This is transvaginal scan. Now, if we are saying this is transvaginal scan, what is this? This is nothing but the urinary bladder. A big mistake made sometimes when we have lot of patient and we are in rush, we have to complete the OPD fully. we do mistake, the staff does a mistake that whenever the patient is called for transvaginal scan, they do not ask the patient to empty the bladder. We need to ask the patient to empty the bladder fully so that we can do the transvaginal scan, because if we'll put the probe inside and we touch the urinary bladder, that means we are giving the pressure to the patient. Another situation is the bladder is full and it is giving a pressure to the uterus, so fundus is like slightly deviated, and if bladder is more full, it might deviate it to the central line and you won't be able to visualize the fundus properly. So we need to ask the patient to empty the bladder properly and then only start scanning. What is this? This is not even hyperechoic, this is not hypoechoic, this is not echogenic, this is black in color. Whenever we say black in color, that means anechoic. Anechoic means that it is filled with the liquid. So you got to know that liquid can be pus, liquid can be blood, liquid can be clear water, but then again that's a different talk. Here it is fully filled with the fluid, clear fluid. And what is this? This is nothing but the fluid in the endometrial cavity. Now what we do, how to take the measurement is, again, measurement in cases of fluid in the endometrial cavity patient is altogether different. It varies. We do not take from outer to the outer, no. It has altogether different kind of calculation. So that was the quick demo class. And if there are any question regarding this, kindly ask. I'm here to answer all your questions. If no questions, are we going to conclude?
Ma'am,
Yes, please go ahead.
yes, ma'am. The white line in vagina was representing cavity only, na?
It's a cavity, but why is it echogenic? Okay, so the answer is, since vagina is exposed to the air and air is white in color.
Okay.
That is the reason it is the most echogenic part of whole the pelvic organ. None of the other organ has that much echogenicity.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Most welcome. Any other question?
No, ma'am.
So are we going to conclude, if there are no questions from your side, should we just conclude the class?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Thank you so much.